To go through this quickly, I have a knife here, a sheath knife. And I have a poncho. This is my tarp for this particular setup. Let me say this else. If I know I'm going to spend the night, okay, this is like my day pack or the pack I keep. If I know I'm going to spend the night, I'm going to swap 4 things different with this, okay? And I hope I can remember all 4 now. Number 1 is I'm going to add some more food. Number 2, I'm going to add a change of socks and underwear. Number 3 is I'm going to swap this out for a larger tarp, or I may not swap it out. I might need to keep this for rain gear. And number 4, I have a blanket in this pack. I may or may not swap that out for a sleeping bag depending on the goals of the trip. Okay, other than that, it's all the same equipment. And really those are covered in here. So if I was stuck with just this, I'm still covered. I just don't have those extra little things that I would want. Okay, so I got a knife, I got the tarp. This is a dry bag. It's sort of an extra, but I do enough stuff around water that every once in a while I'm glad I have it. For right now, it's mostly just an extra container, but if I'm around water, I can put the things in it that might get damaged with water, and like a couple years ago I was going up this river and we came to this place that I just had to swim it. And I was trying to carry it over my head, but then suddenly it got over my head and I had to let the pack go so I could come up and get some air. And before I did that, I put all the valuables in here so nothing got damaged, and what was in here I was able to dry out and so on.
So it's waterproof then?
Yeah, it's a dry bag for keeping things waterproof. So I just keep it here. It doesn't weigh that much. This is the Bahco Laplander Saw, okay? So I have both a knife for fine carving and meal preparation. I also carry the saw, and I should have cleaned this up a little bit more before I show you, but anyway. This is a bush knife that I also carry. This was designed by Brooks's nephew, Christopher. Actually, between the two of us, we designed this, which was kind of interesting doing over the miles via email and stuff. It's an attempt to maximize chopping power and minimize weight, and going with the kukri, tried and true historic design there. I think if I could only have one tool, this would be it. Okay? Because the narrowness here cuts down on weight, but also lets me, do carving and get into places that a broad blade couldn't, and the extra weight out here gives you extra chopping power. This sheath isn't anything special. It's from another experiment, and it happens to fit, and I just haven't had a chance to make another sheath for it yet.
It's called the PST, the Preparing to Stand.
PTS.
PTS bush knife, Preparing to Stand bush knife that Christopher made. If you want one, he will make you one, either one that's just a blank, and then you finish it yourself for cheaper, or he'll finish it for you for a little more money. So. Yeah.
So yeah, if you want one, give Christopher. CT Fisher knives. Yeah, there's another Fisher knives. If you just put Fisher knives, there's actually the two of them. They'll come up. His motto is knives built for the bush. So look for that, and you'll get him. Or I'm sure Brooks can connect you with him too. Let me go to the outside compartment so I don't forget later. In this compartment, I have a Ziploc bag with some toilet paper in it. And in this compartment is my water filter, which is one of the Katahdins like he has over there. But we talked about that earlier. We like the Sweetwater better. It's just that I already had this one, and so when we got the Sweetwater, I let Becky have that one. We got our daughter one of those too. But if I ever have to replace this, I'm going to get one of the Sweetwaters. In this compartment here, I have a lot of little stuff. Here's my headlamp. That's pretty straightforward. Again, what I said earlier about the headlamp, if I'm in actual flight situation, I'm gonna only use this for like medical emergencies after dark. I'm not gonna use it just to wander around in the dark with, because those batteries are all I've got. I've got some cordage, and this is on a netting shuttle, and that's a whole story in itself, but you gotta wrap it up on something, so why not put it on something useful, because I'm into making netting.
What do you use the netting for?
You want the story, don't you?
Well, no, I've got a whole bunch of netting up in my shed. What's a good
Well, what I mean by me being into netting is like making nets, okay?
Oh, okay.
I put netting around the water bottle. Okay, this is to cut down on the shininess and also kind of to cushion it a bit and give better grip. And I guess there's a little bit of insulation and stuff going on there too. But the reason I carry the netting shuttle is I went somewhere once with another group that was, anyway, they were going to go caving, and they thought, and I was wanting some flint. And they said, well, I think there's this flint seam by the mouth of the cave. And so I thought the cave was going to be like down close to where they parked the car. It turned out it's clear up on the mountain somewhere. And I had my shoulder bag pack at that time, and I went with them, and I'm getting deeper in the woods, and I'm like, if I do find any flint, how am I going to carry it out? And I thought, well, maybe it isn't flint after all. When we got there, sure enough, it was flint. And so they're going down the cave, and I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, how am I going to take this stuff down? I had to break it out of the mountain too, so I figured out how to do that. And so I just hung out a little while, cut myself a walking stick, and thought, I've got some cordage in my pack. If I carved a netting shuttle and just netted a little bag, I could carry like at least this kind of amount. And so that's what I did. I just sat down there and netted a bag really quick. It gives you a container real fast. It's not waterproof by any stretch, but netting goes fairly quickly. It's very forgiving. I think it's a very good wilderness skill to learn, just because of its versatility. The reason I started learning netting was because the California Indians backpack, I was putting a set together of all the primitive tools, necessary, like the equivalent of the wise people foresee, the Proverbs 22 verse 3 survival kit. I was wanting to put like a primitive kit together where everything in that kit is stuff that could be made from nature, okay? And a pack to carry it all in. Well, how am I going to make a pack, right? And so I just did some research, and then for the California Indians, their backpack was like a small hammock about like this, and we just put all their stuff in it, sling it over their back, and away they go. And so I learned how to net so I could make one of those, and since then I've made other stuff and learned how to do stuff like this and so on. Anyway, if you got a skill, use it. So I meant this, got the flint, stuck it in the bag, and just slipped a little stick underneath so that the weight, I just had like rope loop handles, didn't hurt too bad, and headed on down the mountain. So anyway, that's just to save me the time of having to sit down and carve a netting shuttle if I ever have to do something like that again. Because when you net, you're using a shuttle. Okay.
You can't talk that much about each item.
I know. Also in here is my Flint and Steel Kit. We've demonstrated this already, so I'm not going to pull this all out. You know what this is about, or should by now. And then here's another bag with a bunch of little items in it. Trying to put stuff away as I take it out so it saves time at the end. In here I have something to comb my hair with. Here's a sharpener for my knives. And this is a knife file. These are getting harder and harder to get a hold of, but I figure I want to be able to sharpen my saw too. Yeah, but I ordered another bunch of these just to have for sale for people or to give them out, and the second batch I ordered weren't as good quality as the first batch.
Running out of fuel.
So anyway, this is, you know, it's shaped like a knife, and so you can get in between the teeth and file them.
You're gonna have to talk louder.
Gonna have to talk louder.
Do you use that little thing for crosscut sharpening too?
I could with a crosscut saw. It's the way the teeth are. You can use. I think they typically use a triangular file, which is much more common. It's a bigger file, and you can, you know, you have plenty of space between the teeth, so you can get in there and work with them easily. But like for the saws with smaller teeth, like this one has, you need this little file to be able to get in between and to sharpen it.
Yeah, although if you're using your crosscut saw, you're not going to be carrying that with you out in the wilderness, so you would probably have sharpening tools that would
Right.
be at the home site.
Right.
A little bigger than that.
Okay, also in here I have cloak pin, which showed you yesterday. Some clothespins. These are like for crafts. These make really good clamps for doing different crafts like basketry and stuff. So I've got a couple of those. Here's some thread. I thought there was a needle case with some needles in there, but anyway. Also a cloak pin. This is like what they call a kilt pin. You can get these at the fabric stores. Also, one of the other reasons I use this, I mean, yeah, I made it myself, which is nice, but this gives me an awl for poking holes. And so if I don't have the needle, I can poke a hole and then stick this through, you know, and still sew stuff up. One of my students made a whole pair of moccasins using the awl from the cloak pin that she had made. And I have a whistle from an antler tip that my daughter made. It's not real loud, but it carries good. And we have a set of whistle signals that we use when we're traveling out in the woods. Because sometimes we'll spread out a little bit. You know, more eyes in more places are going to see more resources and stuff. And so sometimes that's advantageous to do, and you want to be able to stay in touch and not find that you're wandering like this and then you're totally apart from each other and how you're going to get back together. And so when we do that, we've learned something from the birds. You notice the little birds as they're going through the bushes, they're like cheep, 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 cheep. They call that a companion call. And the birds are just doing that to help them stay together, because you hear somebody, you know, blow the whistle. I mean, if you heard that out in the woods, you'd know where I was, like what direction, but you'd also know, like from the loudness of the whistle, like how far away I was, right? And so if we're doing this every little bit, like the birds are, you'd know if you were starting to get too far apart and, you know, and start coming back together again. So one whistle just basically means here I am, where are you, let's stay in touch, okay? And two whistles means let's get together. So that's why I use the two horn blasts, because it's time to meet, you know, one means start thinking about. So, yes.
The story of the clicker in World War II?
Yeah, same kind of idea there. Yeah, when the
3 blast is always emergency.
yeah, keep that in mind. What?
You can take that off your head if you want. It's not,
Oh, bless you.
I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah, this has been on my ears long enough. Okay, so those are just the little items that I keep in this bag so they're not falling out and getting lost when I'm getting something out of the pocket. So again, you know, remember, like the Proverbs 22 verse 3 kit, those are the main items that you want to be sure to carry. The other stuff that I'm showing here is just stuff that I found to be useful in my years of wilderness wanderings. Here's a wool hat that I have. It's my favorite one. Becky made it for me.
Nice.
Okay. I've got some South American roots, and I like the little ear flaps. So yes, this is nice. Here's first aid kit. I'm not going to pull this all out. We talked about this earlier, but you can kind of see the size of what I'm carrying. In this bag, I have a pair of wool socks, and usually I have a pair of leg wraps in here too. They're in my other pack right now, and then I also have this strap, you know, to do the match coat thing. So, like the extra pair of socks and underwear would go in this bag if I was spending the night. Here is my cook pot. This started out life as a canister in Target. And so I bought it, and when it looked like the good size, and so I thought, good. It's a little heavier than what I would want, but I can live with that. Took all the lid paraphernalia off and put a bail on it. Again, if at all possible, sew a little bag to put it in, because all that black and stuff will get over everything else in your pack and maybe ruin something. My water bottle fits down inside here. If you don't use this method, like frequently you pull the water bottle out and something will fall over into the space where the water bottle was, and you go to put your water bottle back and it's just a pain to get it back down in there. This holds that space open really nice. And then I got this. I really want to just right now, before we get too far away from the cook pot, emphasize, like, even if you're just going on an afternoon hike, like, carry those items from the Proverbs kit. Yeah, you're probably not going to need them because you're just doing the afternoon, right? But let's say you run across some wild edible plants and they need to be cooked. Well, find yourself a nice little place, practice making fire, cook the plants, you know, help fix in your mind that this plant is edible, what it tastes like. You've had a little experience building fire. Like, frequently on Sabbath afternoon, we'll go out, okay, we'll build a fire somewhere, hang out around the fire, cook something, have worship around the fire, and come home, kind of deal. You know, it's a whole lot more fun doing that than just hiking to some destination, turn around, and come back. You know, and you're practicing your skills, and just, you know, over time, that adds up and you get experience. And as much as possible, go out year round. Oh, here's an acorn cap. That must have fallen out of somewhere. I won't give it full blast. Yeah, that goes up in here somewhere. Okay.
Hello, Jim.
Sir.
I've got a number of books from Christopher. On the title is With Nature and With God.
Oh, that latest one he's put together.
One for family, they're free. I'm happy to share.
Yeah, pick that up. He's got some good information in there. Okay, this is my food bag, and I can tell just from looking and feeling it right now, this needs to be replenished. All right? I've taken some stuff out of here for whatever reason, I don't remember right now, and I haven't restocked it. So I'm apologizing for being a bad illustration right now. What I have in here are dried nuts, some dried fruit. This is some parched corn, more dried fruit, some salt, George Washington broth. You know, if you make I rarely use this, but some wild edibles are real bland. I mean, like really bland. And so if you can add some flavoring to it, that's going to help. I think I also have like a bag of salt here. So, again, the principle here is to have something that you can eat on the go without having to cook, but also having something you can cook for a warm meal. And
Should be about 3 days supply.
yeah,
Short.
Yeah, I would, this, like I said, this needs to get replenished. There's not enough there. I could get maybe 2 meals out of that, maybe not. Here's the scarf I have. I have 2 scarves, one for the summer, one for the winter. This is my winter scarf. It's wool. If I had time, I'd like to show you some things you can do with a scarf, but we don't have time. I already showed you the bush knife. I have another little packet here with a Bible and one of our little songbooks and some Ellen White quotes, some key quotes. I think some other notes and stuff in there, yeah. And then in the bottom is a wool blanket, which I would really choose not to pull out if you're okay with that. But you can see the wool blanket in there. It's hard to get back in, okay? But this is like a full size. Well, it started out as an army blanket. I think it's one of those British hospital blankets. It was white, and I dyed it brown with black walnut holes. So that's what's in my pack.